Travis Wayne Goodsell. As I did the video a couple of days ago about a woman that YouTube recommended on her channel, she was reading the Book of Mormon and giving clarifying commentary. And she talked about how the Book of Mormon contains prophecies, but she does not see the big picture of all the prophecies in the Book of Mormon, because she doesn't say it, but I'm assuming she's a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and so believes that the Book of Mormon is literal history rather than a book of prophecy. And as such, she sees the condescending Jesus part and thinks that that is a prophecy for the Roman period time, and therefore it's already happened, and therefore the Book of Mormon is true, and therefore Jesus is real and true. Because the Book of Mormon is real and true, not a book of prophecy. And so likewise, she reads 2 Nephi chapter 3 and only sees that as a prophecy for Joseph Smith. And she misses our actual Christ that is also discussed in that chapter as a prophecy for the latter days. Because the Book of Mormon says it is in the learning of the Jews, not the learning of Christians, whether Trinitarian or non-Trinitarian. And so, as a result, this Mormon and all Mormons miss tons of prophecies. This is the stumbling block that Brigham Young did to Joseph Smith's church. So, in the Joseph Smith visionary accounts, again, if the Book of Mormon is the learning of the Jews, and Joseph Smith's church is the learning of the Jews, this is not literal history. This is a visionary account, therefore it's also prophecies. And so Mormons miss it. There are tons of prophecies in here. But because you've replaced Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon, you don't see them. And so right at the very beginning, evil disposed and designing persons are tampering with Joseph Smith's church. Who's responsible for letting the people know about the church? The missionaries. Section 28 requires that missionaries only preach the Book of Mormon as it is written and the words of Joseph Smith as written and published. They are not allowed to replace Joseph Smith and his religion. They are not allowed to change the name of his church. What is the name of his church? Are you sure that this is correct? That it's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? Did you check the Joseph Smith papers? It's the authoritative source. This is not the authoritative source. The Joseph Smith papers are the authoritative source. What does the Joseph Smith papers say about the Joseph Smith history and the name of the church? It's the Church of Latter-day Saints. This needs to be changed. Willard Richards replaced the name of Joseph Smith's church after he died, because this was published in the Times and Seasons in 1842. This is an 1838 account. Why did it take until 1842 to publish it? Because of the Utah War. Brigham Young cooed the church that year. Evil-disposed, designing persons militating the Mormon War. Joseph Smith just prophesied about what was about to happen. And it happened. And Mormons all miss it. Because this is Brigham's church. They kind of have to miss it if they're going to claim it's true. But there's a problem as to why Russell Marion Nelson refuses to make the necessary changes after having published the Joseph Smith papers. And it's in the Doctrine and Covenants, and I've gone over this with you when I talk about having been a part of the revision of the footnotes. We were specifically ordered not to put in our own beliefs. We only are allowed to put in a guide to the scriptures reference or a scripture to footnote, unless we can justify it with the words of the president of the church. And so that's what the church is doing now. Nelson gets up at the pulpit of conference, says something, and all the manuals are changed. It doesn't matter if it's wrong. The manuals are changed now to the error of Nelson. But in verse 27 of section 107, we were ordered that our committee, if there was somebody who disagreed with a change that needed to be made, it was not allowed to be made because somebody disagreed. We were not unanimous, and so the original error remains. And it's because of this. Every decision made by either of these quorums must be by the unanimous voice of the same. Every member in each quorum must be agreed to its decisions in order to make their decisions of the same power or validity one with another. And this would explain why the Joseph Smith papers are not correcting our scriptures, putting them back to the way they were. And it's because there's a disagreement. There are those who continue to claim that the falsehoods that corrected, altered, changed, and replaced Joseph Smith need to remain. So yes, that's what we've been hearing lately for the second vision bicentennial, is that it was Moroni, not Nephi. That it was golden, not gold. However, Nelson has officially now made that change, which is weird because in 2020's April conference Saturday session, he did a video clip for us in which he says it's golden. What do we choose? Because now he's replaced it again. It's back to gold. In his little tweet or Instagram post, I think it was, that he did last week. So what are we supposed to do now? What are Mormon apologists supposed to do? They've got it all figured out that it's golden. Everything is golden. And Nelson just crushed them. just like he did with the name. So now it's not Mormon apologists. It's now apologists for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so now Nelson has crushed them again. Not a single one of them can now say it's golden plates. They have to now admit it's 200-pound gold plates, because they're taking it literally, not a prophecy. And so this is dangerous, because the church aren't authorized to make changes in the first place, let alone having a dissenting vote to keep the falsehoods that changed it in the first place. That's the whole catch. But that's a little insider information that only I know about, having been involved with that project. And so Joseph Smith talks about the names of his family. He says, my father, Joseph Smith Sr. Oh, it's his same name. He's a junior. Isn't that interesting? Well, you're supposed to remember the Book of Mormon. In 2 Nephi, chapter 3. This is about Joseph Smith, that Mormons know about, but they think that it's a prophecy of Joseph Smith, not about their Messiah for the latter days. Verse 5. Covenants of the Lord that the Messiah should be made manifest unto them in the latter days. What does it mean by manifest? Well, it's the same thing like it did for the Joseph Smith. Raised up. Joseph truly testified, a seer shall the Lord my God raise up. Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith is human. Emmanuel, Heavenly Father, Adam or Heavenly Father, depending on which president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints you believe, didn't come down to Lucy Mack and rape her and immaculately conceive Joseph Smith Jr. That's absurd. Right? No, Joseph Smith Sr. married Lucy Mack. They had Joseph Smith among other children that are listed. And so that's what raised up means. Human parents. Human person. And Joseph Smith is using the learning of the Jews, and it's actually not Junior who's writing this, it's Senior. You need to use science. This is prophecy. This is not literal history. And so thus, there needs to be somebody who had to rewrite the 116 pages. And since it's I've done the videos. Watch them. We're talking about the prophecies. In verse 9, Joseph Smith shall be like unto the man like Moses, whom he said he would raise up to deliver my people, O house of Israel. And it's a man like Moses, because verse 10, he says, of Moses. So the people understand that there are three people being talked about here. Joseph Smith, the man like Moses, of Moses. It says there will be a man like Moses in the latter days. Verse 5 tells you that the man like Moses is coming in the latter days. Raised up, just like Joseph Smith. Not immaculately conceived. He doesn't have supernatural powers. He can die. Mormons can murder him too, just like they murdered Joseph Smith. But this is a prophecy. Section 103, verse 16. You miss it when you turn this into literal history and you claim it's Jesus. But this is what Joseph is referring to in his visionary account here. Joseph Smith Sr., same name from 2 Nephi chapter 3, I think it's verse 15. And so this is why Joseph is wording it this way. And so, did you check the baby name meanings? Why is Hiram spelled Hyrum and not Hiram, which is on his birth certificate? Well, again, I didn't get into it. I brushed it off. 9/11/1826, Canandaigua, New York, at the York Rites Lodge, where the Master Mason, Joseph Smith Sr., was working on the Book of Mormon with William Morgan. It was not called the Book of Mormon then, but Sr. had the responsibility to save his life and finish the work of the Book of Mormon and keep it from being discovered by the enemy, who will, in the latter days, be the threat to America to overthrow it and cause the day that shall burn as an oven. I've begun watching season 3 of Jack Ryan, the Amazon TV series. And in the first episode here, I saw that they were talking about Operation Falcon, which was Russian, so they didn't say Falcon, but it was the translation that he mentions, in which they intended to cause misinformation, which is the art of war tactic, on the Eastern Bloc nations, and cause assassinations, and then do a little nuclear strike to cause chaos and an uproar for the Russians to then come in and invade. And it had been revised after being shut down back in '69. And whether or not this is literal history that is now being embellished for the show, I don't know. I could Google search it, I guess. But I see that pattern here in America, that there's already misinformation all over America. We're all fighting against each other with a false dichotomy argument, one way or the other. Nobody wants to see another way that would solve the problems. We have a senator in the Democrat Party who is targeted by the Department of Justice for bribery, when every single congressperson is guilty of bribery, and even the Supreme Court justices. But the Department of Justice selected this one Democrat senator at the exact same time that day one of the Biden impeachment inquiry began. If the House impeaches Biden, it goes to the Senate for a vote. But if he loses in court by the Department of Justice, he's removed from office. He doesn't get to vote for the Democrats. Remember the 2022 midterm elections? Notice how close it is? And so a Democrat president getting impeached, now being voted on for removal from office in the Senate, and the Department of Justice is targeting only a Democrat senator to remove him from office. Do you not see a coup plot going on? And so Joseph Smith reveals to us that Christianity is an abomination, that Constantine's first creed is an abomination, the creation of Jesus. And what was the name that Willard Richards replaced with the name of Joseph Smith's church? Jesus Christ. What Joseph Smith declares as an abomination, Willard Richards replaced the name with. And you say, well, it's in the Gospels. It's in the Book of Mormon. You don't understand the learning of the Jews. You're still thinking it's literal history. The learning of the Jews uses character names for the prophecies because the character names have baby name meanings. That's why Jacob is called Jacob, and they tell you he was called Jacob because he usurps the birthright blessing from Esau. And he is given the new name, and Nelson botched the translation, covered it up with his false translation. But all the manuals now have been altered to conform to Nelson's big lie. See, we can no longer convert anybody who knows Hebrew now, because they'll join the church, they'll read the manuals that are in the lessons, and go, no, that's wrong, and get excommunicated because they're going against the living prophet of Jesus. Right, Avraham Gileadi? And so, the spring of 1820. Now, critics are claiming that Joseph Smith is lying. As Mormons say that this is truthful, literal history. It's a visionary account. It is a prophecy. This is the Exodus bicentennial. The spring of 1820 puts 2020 as the bicentennial. And like I said, we already know Nelson held a bicentennial Saturday evening session of conference for April. In the spring. What also was going on? There's this Jewish holy day that has to do with the Exodus, the man like Moses. And it's called Passover. Creeping death is what Passover refers to. Thanks to Metallica. So what happened in 2022 or 2020? Was there creeping death? Nelson knew and talked to China personally about it and then downplayed it just like a certain asterisk president who purposely wanted to infect everybody with creeping death. To exterminate humans. Yeah. And so, prophecy fulfilled. But all Mormons missed it because Nelson deceived you into thinking this is literal history. That there wasn't a lawsuit against the Church of Jesus Christ by the man like Moses. Nor the waters parted so that Mormons could pass through on dry ground at the Green River turnoff on the I-70. Straight shot to southern Illinois, not Independence, Missouri. That's the trap. But Joseph Smith is purposely giving us the date for the Exodus. Because what happens? Who appears? Jesus. Wrong. The sun at noonday. Emmanuel, Father and Son. The name of the Christ in the learning of the Jews. Not Jesus. That's the wrong name. It even says so in Matthew. He quotes Isaiah, doesn't name Isaiah, and then says, after quoting Isaiah, that his name should be Emmanuel, according to prophecy. He then says his name is named Jesus instead. And nobody thinks that's strange? Well, it's just another name. He's known by many names. Then why do you insist that his name is Jesus? Don't take the name of the Lord in vain. What name? You're already taking it in vain by replacing it with Jesus. See what you're missing? The Book of Mormon also tells you 2020 is the year for the Exodus, but it's a little tricky. It's 600 years from the time Lehi left Jerusalem. That's as far as I'm going to go on that one for this video. I've already done the videos on it, but just understand that that's what they're referring to. And I'll give you a hint, it's not 600 BCE, it's 597. So what's 600 years from 597 BCE? And I'll give you another hint. Get out your Urim and Thummim and look over Russia, in the Scandinavia-Russia part, on 8 April 4 CE. Sun at noonday, remember? What happens? Oh, look, there's an angel standing in the sun. It's an annular eclipse, which would have been seen as a crescent from those in the Middle East. Now, do you understand the symbol they use? That's what they're referring to. They don't realize it, I think. I think they think that's a moon, a crescent moon. But yeah, the moon was involved. But the crescent is the sun. And so 20 years later, the final day of darkness of the latter days, over the United States of America this time. So then when you read in the Book of Mormon that it's the first year of the reign of King Zedekiah, king of Judah, which is the 600 years when Lehi leaves, which is 597. Who put Zedekiah on the throne? A foreign government. What foreign government put somebody on the throne on that first year, which is Revelation chapter 12, 1, 2, and 5? 23rd September 2017? Which the first day of darkness was on the 21st of August 2017? Who was put on the throne of America that year? And was it a foreign government? Yeah, because it's confirmed. Prophecy, and you miss it because you took it as literal history. And so there's the Methodist preacher, and then we get to a second vision. As the church just utterly refuses to tell us the truth about this because there's dissenting voices. They're not unanimously agreed. And so Mormons continue to hear the lie messenger appears as the sun at noonday. Verse 30. It's Emmanuel. It's our future Christ. This is a prophecy. And so to help you understand he's human, Joseph Smith says he can see that he's male. He's wearing a blue robe rather than a pink robe. Sounds like somebody's rocking upstairs. Everybody's having fun but me. And so he says he's a messenger. Anybody know Hebrew? What is the Hebrew word that is translated as messenger? Give you a hint. Malachi. And so what are the first prophecies of the latter days does he quote from? Malachi. And so it's Nephi, not Moroni. Why is it Nephi? Because this is a prophecy. Oh, I forgot to do the... So we'll cover this briefly here and then go back to the 1820. The prophecy is that his new name of the great and abominable church's temple would be Nephi. And because of Benson, it hasn't been used since. So we now know the date of when he went through on his mission and went through the temple, the Los Angeles temple, according to prophecy, and got the new name Nephi, because he's going on a mission now. 19-year-old mission. May 6th, 1989. Prophecy fulfilled. 1820, Joseph Smith goes into a grove of trees. He's in western New York near the Great Lakes. This is prophecy. And for that prophecy, we need to go to the prophecy in Ezekiel in a parable form. It's chapter 17. And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man. When the 12 apostles come to Jesus, Matthew chapter 24, and ask him, hey, you're about to die. When are you coming back again? He tells them, the Son of Man comes. This is the only place where another prophet is referred to as the Son of Man. Speak a parable unto the house of Israel. This is a prophecy of the Jewish Christ of the latter days, whom Joseph Smith says is a Mormon. And Joseph Smith is referring to this grove of trees, Great Lakes of Michigan. An eagle. What is the symbol of America again? Where are the latter days occurring? Where are the 3 days of darkness occurring? That form the Hebrew letter A and T, the first and last letters of the Hebrew alphabet, over America, He goes to the highest branch of the cedar of Lebanon. This is an Egyptianism. It has to do with Horus, the Christ of the Egyptians, who again is a prophecy of the latter days. Takes the top of his twigs. Interesting. Twig, without the I, is TWG. Carried it into a land of traffic. So it's not the Middle East. It is not Bethlehem. It's a city of merchants. It's in a faraway land. This is where he is born and his nativity. He took the seed, planted it in a fruitful field. A cedar of Lebanon is planted in another land. Born. This is the prophecy of his actual birth and his nativity. So where in the United States of America, because this is prophecy, are there tall, thick trees similar to the cedars of Lebanon? Oakland, California, with the redwoods. That's the land of his nativity that Joseph Smith is talking about. Grove of trees of Emmanuel's first coming, birth. The city of merchants, what's the big city there? San Francisco, the whole Bay Area, because they're merged together. So there's Berkeley and some others that are merged with San Francisco. So you are looking for a Mormon who is born in the San Francisco Bay Area, whose nativity is Oakland. The first vision, the grove of trees. But then, verse 5, he moves as a child and goes to a land where great waters are, as a willow tree. Anybody familiar with the trees in the Michigan area by the Great Lakes? Willow trees. Western New York also. The Great Lakes. Michigan. The hand. Do you see the prophecy here that Joseph Smith is using with the first vision? And I can testify it happened. It is real. But you miss it when you turn things into literal history. Those kinds of prophecies don't make sense to you, because you're trying to put Jesus in there, and it doesn't fit, like a square peg into a round hole. It doesn't fit. And so back to Nephi. Notice there are 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th Nephi in the Book of Mormon. Nephi was the designation of the names of the kings of the Nephites. In the Jewish scriptures, 1st and 2nd Samuel are called 1st and 2nd Kings, so that 1st and 2nd Kings are called 3rd and 4th Kings. So in the learning of the Jews, it's 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th Kings. And we have in our Book of Mormon 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th Kings named Nephi, which is the new name he would get in the temple, the Los Angeles temple, on May 6th, 1989, when he goes on his mission. This also, because Joseph Smith put it this way as Nephi, means that Joseph Smith was correcting an error he had previously made in Doctrine and Covenants section 27 verse 5. That it's Nephi, not Moroni, who gave Joseph Smith the keys to fulfill the prophecy of Ezekiel. See how Ezekiel is being used in the visions here for prophecies of combining the stick of Judah, which are the Old Testament stories, and the stick of Joseph, which are Egyptian documents. The brass plates in the Book of Mormon are the stick of Judah and the stick of Joseph combined together into one book in Egyptian brass plates. What's the Book of Mormon? Egyptian gold plates, huh? But it's not the fulfillment. It says so in the Book of Mormon, in 2nd Nephi even. Plus, it just plagiarizes the Bible. That doesn't make it the fulfillment. No, Joseph is telling you the Egyptian documents are how you can correct the Bible and add in the missing plain and precious scriptures, which are all prophecies of the latter-day Christ of Mormons. Because Joseph Smith would go on to try to revise the Bible with Sidney Rigdon to pay him for his work on the major portion of the Book of Mormon. And then in 1835, he obtained a Hebrew Bible and a Hebrew alphabet and grammar, and was trying to learn Hebrew to correctly translate the Bible from the biblical Hebrew text. And they got a teacher finally in 1836 to teach him some biblical Hebrew. And that's where Rocky Yang comes from in facsimile number 1's explanation. And I also tried to learn Greek. And Brother Niebuhr, when he joined the church later on in the 40s, he knew German and some Hebrew and was helping to additionally teach Joseph Smith. Phil Niebuhr, the descendant, married my cousin, a Bowen, and they're the ones who run the hot springs at the Idaho-Wyoming border area that many of the locals frequent, especially those who go to Rick's. Rick's has been destroyed. It ceases to exist on the face of the earth, so my college does not exist there. And so, yeah, yay. But, yeah. Joseph Smith was constantly trying to rewrite the Bible, the Book of Abraham, the Egyptian papyri. That's why he named the second set of papyri as the Book of Joseph. Stick of Judah, stick of Joseph. Joseph knew what he was doing. Mormons need to pay attention and not replace Joseph with Christianity. And so he talks about the Urim and Thummim, which from the book of Abraham is to see the signs in the heavens. The second vision is a direct pattern match with Lehi's second vision right there at the beginning of the book. Emmanuel gives a book about destruction. And there's a sign in the heavens of the date of the latter days, the start of it, from Revelation chapter 12. That's why the Joseph Smith translation confirms that verse 5 needs to be moved to verse 3, like the Book of Mormon did. And here, Joseph Smith, Urim and Thummim, for signs in the heavens, is given a book by Emmanuel, the sun at noonday, about destruction, the day that shall burn as an oven. An exact pattern match. And so he refers to seers. Go back to 2 Nephi chapter 3. Joseph Smith is called a seer rather than a prophet, like the man like Moses is in Deuteronomy 18:15 through 19, if I didn't mention it. And so what happens? He's being told of the prophecies of the latter days. He's not being told about literal history Jesus born in the Roman period time. He tells us, quoting prophecies in the Old Testament. And then, when it comes to identifying our Christ, he says, go to Acts. Well, what's different about Acts? Is it cut off? Are you sure? Is that the word in Acts? But Acts also says, all the prophets from Samuel on have foretold of these days, the latter days, in Acts, which is supposedly after Jesus. It's because Jesus, as all Jews knew, is not the fulfillment. He wasn't born in the San Francisco Bay Area. He didn't have his home in Oakland. He didn't move to Michigan. He's not coming to start the latter days to warn Mormons on the 23rd of September 2017. Revelation 12. Monson would go on to die as the stars fell from the tail of Draco the dragon. Verse 4. It was his birthday on the 21st of August. You're missing tons of prophecy by replacing Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon as literal history Christian. He is warning you, Mormons, listen to this Christ. Don't listen to Jesus. He's gonna save you if you listen. And 2 more days and we're there. How many Mormons are listening? 0. They're all arguing with replacing Joseph Smith. And so verse 41, Joel, sun shall be darkened, moon turned to blood, stars fall from heaven. 2 sets of 4 on the 22nd of September. 9/11. Joseph Smith giving us a number code to identify the enemy, the Illuminati, with the inverted pentagram of Lucifer, and thus prophesying that it's Brigham Young who changed the name of his church and replaced him. And then there were other groups that went off elsewhere in America to do the Illuminati plot. And they've been plotting for 200 years. See, that's the conduit open right up into heaven. That's a sign in the heavens, guys. So many prophecies. And then I've done the videos about how John the Baptist visiting is a prophecy. That sign in the heavens occurred in 2015. After the sun shall be darkened, moon turned to blood, stars fall from heaven, as 3 stars of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints fell and put Nelson into pole position to fulfill prophecy with the death of Monson. Russell Marion means Mars, the red star. Mars is the husband of Venus, that Isaiah tells us is Lucifer in the Latin Vulgate, anyway. But it's in the Book of Mormon, therefore, the biblical Hebrew text is wrong. The Latin Vulgate is true. They purposely put that in so that Mormons would know to look for the inverted pentagram on the keystone of the doors of the headquarters temple. But you replace Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon, so you replace the meaning of the symbol. And everybody else knows that it's Lucifer's, and yet Mormons are the only ones in denial.